And you are on ABC Sunshine Coast. It is currently 17 minutes to 8. I'm Alex Easton. I'll be with you through until then. Now, when I was a little tacker, my grandfather had the most amazing backyard veggie garden. It was like this cornucopia. You'd go out and nick a carrot and then get in trouble for nicking the carrot and all that sort of stuff. It was really common. These days, it's not that common, and someone who thinks we should be moving back towards that is Riordan Butler. Riordan quit his job in the corporate world to plough his own furrow and focus on growing veggies, and this weekend he'll be at the Queensland Garden Expo to help you grow your own veggies in the backyard. Riordan, thank you so much for coming in. So you're like a living example of the Good Life TV show.
Yeah, Tessa mentioned The Good Life to me when I called up, and I had to go and watch the first episode because I'd never watched it before, and it was pretty funny. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much us. I recently sold my business, so that I was a financial advisor, and I moved into this with my wife doing my Veggie Patch.
So was this like some kind of healing? I'm just sick of the corporate life and I want to just do it myself?
Probably a combination of things. Midlife crisis for sure. No,
Don't look like you're doing it. Just saying.
It's funny because I had really long hair when I was a financial advisor, and now it's really short. I've kind of done the opposite of what you would expect of a professional, you know.
Well, now you're labouring in the backyard, and that long hair suddenly becomes burdensome, I suppose.
Yeah, and the sweat. Like, I think, probably just getting, the body moving and getting out in nature and getting the hands dirty, but also incorporating the family into it as well. Like, I think that's really important. And you can't really do that when you're just sitting behind a desk all the time. And, my back's a bit, how you going? And I think getting moving is probably the best medicine for that.
Have you always been into gardening?
I grew up on a farm. Well, it wasn't technically a farm. I lived on an acreage when I was younger, but we were surrounded by farmland. My first job was actually as a mushroom picker. And I was about 12 when I tried to grow my first vegetables, and Mum was like, you should grow some rocket because that grows all year round. And it didn't grow, it just died. So I was kind of a bit disappointed and disheartened, but I've always been around it, and always had that passion. And growing up in the bush, that was definitely encouraged for sure. My brother, his first job was a tomato picker, so we kind of naturally, it runs in the family, I think.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's good that those experiences of working on a farm picking mushrooms and tomatoes didn't actually put you off this whole thing.
No, for sure. But yeah, I guess I wanted to really take it to the world with reconnecting people with their food. I feel like if you look back historically, you can see in a post-war era where it was very, very common for people to have veggie patches and fruit trees and all that sort of stuff in their yards, even in metropolitan areas in and around Brisbane. But I feel like, or what I've kind of observed in my short lifetime, is that we've kind of become very convenient and very, I guess, reliant on our our supermarkets to get our fresh fruit and veg from it. And I feel like we are slowly moving back towards trying to have our own food sources, but also, again, reconnecting with our food. With the advent of all of the technology around food processing, I feel like we've kind of lost it a bit. And my purpose is in and around creating a more sustainable future for humanity, but also the planet. And the best way to do that, I think, is to teach people about where their food comes from.
A lot of people might be listening to this going, well, that sounds great, but I can't quit my job and I don't have time otherwise to be going and gardening. And besides, gardening's actually kind of expensive too.
Yeah, 100%. I guess if you look for talking about that post-war era, back then you didn't have to have the two parents working. You could survive pretty easily and offset some of the cost of living with your fruit and veg garden, and you would survive just by having one person at work. Whereas now it's the way that cost of living has gone. It's like two people have to work now to be able to put food on the table and pay for rent, and And then trying to have a veggie patch and have the time and all that sort of stuff on the back end of that is a really challenging thing. But I guess that's where we kind of provide a solution where we come in and say, okay, well, we can do this for you.
Right. So you're basically then acting as a gardening consultant.
Exactly. But whilst we're consultants, we do have like a flagship product that we're running and that we're actually on display, and we're actually building the display today out at Nambour, and that is our flagship garden beds. They are our deluxe offering. Shameless plug here, but yeah. So we have two beds that are side by side, parallel, and they are built from Australian cypress, sustainably farmed. So everything that we try to do is sustainable as much as possible. And then we use top quality soil and organic seedlings, and we also use a Wicking Kit System. And then aesthetically, we finish it all off with two arch trellises that are just absolutely beautiful, that are custom made and locally made as well.
What about space? I mean, when I was talking about my grandfather's veggie patch when I was growing up, he was on a quarter-acre block out at Penrith in Western Sydney. But these days, a block that size, you'd be getting 2, 3, 4 houses on.
Yeah. And ultimately, it comes down to the need, you know. The way that we've designed these garden beds is to be able to feed a family of 5 quite easily with the amount of space that's in them. And they also have Wicking Kit systems, so they're heaps water efficient, and they basically water themselves, and they have a reservoir at the bottom of it that the roots actually pull the water up from as they need it, rather than, you know, over watering them or not watering them enough.
So that's very low maintenance. Do you get to a point, or do you risk a point then when you're not actually developing that connection that you're talking about because you're not so directly involved in growing them?
Yeah, it depends. Like the way that we've designed this one as our flagship, we do have other products in the pipeline coming as well. Like we want to be able to offer something to people that have units and apartments. We have limited space and don't have the amount of floor space to be able to build something. But we've even been looking at like robo farming for those who don't want any input at all. But I feel like this really drives home the message of what we're trying to communicate with this flagship product. And it really does, I feel like I'd love to just do the education element as much as possible. Like we try to incorporate as many local businesses as possible into what we do. But yeah, the education piece, I think, is probably the biggest element of connecting people back to their roots.
Which I suppose is helpful for you launching at the Garden Expo this weekend, because so much of that is actually about education and people coming along to learn how to do things.
Yeah, we it was a bit of a too good of an opportunity to let go, and it was a bit tactical on that side of the equation to do it in line with the Garden Expo. Like there's 40,000 people coming along over the next 3 or 4 days, so it's just going to be absolutely massive, and that's a lot of people to see what we're up to and, you know, really celebrate what we're trying to do.
All right, Riordan Butler, thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thanks so much, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That is Riordan Butler from My Veggie Patch, and they're launching at the Queensland Garden Expo this weekend. The expo starts on Friday and runs through to Sunday at the Nambour Showground, and because we know so many of you are into gardening, Annie Gaffney and the Drive team will be there on Friday afternoon, bringing you the very best bits from Expo Gardens, and backing that up, Sheridan Stewart will be there on Saturday morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So if you get along to the expo, do make sure to drop by and say hi. It's 8 minutes to 8. Sarah Howells will be along in just a tick to take you through the fun she's up to this morning. This is Madeline Perot. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Say hey, Tessa.
Hi.